And welcome to another episode of the Regi and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout outs going out early in the show to the recent birthday boy, our executive producer, Chase Smith. Happy belated Chase on that.
Happy Chase.
Yeah. And of course, the R&R producer, Dave Emmert, making sure we come out to everybody out there in the podcatosphere. I'm using that every episode now. Yeah. Excellent job, David. He is the king, and we've got a lot to get into today, Michael Regi. We're going to talk some Cavaliers coming up as their season, thank goodness, it came to an end. The Indians, surprisingly, are at the quarter mark, right in the thick of things in the AL Central. And for everybody out there, yes, later in this podcast, I will convince Michael Regi to play the schedule game now that the Browns schedule is out. Reg?
In May. You got me do this in May, mid-May. Yeah.
We will give a little asterisk next to it where you are eligible to change your mind later as we get closer to the season. But since as we tape this, I'm looking at you on our Zoom broadcast here, and you've got your Browns hat on. So I'm going to have you take that off and put your prognosticator hat on a little later in the podcast. So you play the schedule game with the Brownies. All right, Red? So
always a hell of a lot of fun schedule game.
Always. I know it's one of your favorite things to do in sports.
Very favorite.
Yes,
you and I together. Very favorite. The very best.
We did it back then. We'll do it here for everybody. But let's start with the Cavaliers bringing their season to another non-playoff close as they finished the season 22-50, Michael Regi. Losers of 14 of their last 15, and they finished with the fourth worst record, tied for the fourth worst record in the NBA. So I guess my question to you is, headed in the wrong direction, obviously, are there any bright spots for the future of this franchise, or do they need to blow it up from the top on down?
First of all, again, happy Appbith to you, partner. Because my man Rhoda, just another ping pong ball in the hopper. Yes. And some things, Kenny Rhoda, just never, ever change, do they?
No. Unfortunately, the Cavaliers are the kings of Appbith. And in a strange way, I guess Appbith has replaced the Browns Super Bowl, which used to be the draft, right? The Browns are good now. So they're actually Super Bowl contenders. We're back to Appbith with the Cavaliers again.
Yeah, back to Appbith with them. And, look, I don't know. Do I want to say, Kenny, you know how you and I, when we talk hoops, and we have forever since we've been together, I mean, you say, well, Colin Sexton could score at an offensively is a guy can go get you 20 every night. Okay. All right, that's fine. And there's no question that Darius Garland had a much better second season than he did his rookie season. But, Kenny, here's my thing. You always have a good feel on this. But what I want to know is, that's great. You do it on a team that winds up losing 14 of their last 15. And how do I know that Colin Sexton in meaningful games, when a team is ready to be a playoff team, do I believe that he's going to go out and be your guy and get 25 every night? When games are much more meaningful with playoff implications, and then hopefully as you get, I don't know that yet. I just don't know that. I can't sit here. We'd like to have it happen, sure, but I can't sit here and say for sure that on a team that Sexton's only played with this Cavalier team that's terrible. Now, again, put him in that same capacity when a team, you say, okay, we're going to be a playoff team, and then we got to be a team that can get a decent seed in the NBA East. Well, is that going to equate? How do we know? We don't know that. Again, I like the kid. A lot of guys get on him and what have you. But look, he's shot happy on a team that doesn't win, Kenny. And so I just don't know if you can just automatically make that then and elevate him to saying he's going to do this for a team that's one of the better teams in the league. Or let's just start with being a playoff team. How's that?
Right. Right.
And look, Garland, Garland did a nice job this year, improved and everything. Kenny, I didn't like the Okoro pick last year at 8, and I know people are going to say, well, same thing. Yeah, Rega, he averaged 15 a game over the last 10 games of the year and really picked it. Playing for what?
Right.
And playing against competition that isn't exactly putting their game plan together to stop Isaac Okoro, are they? I got a lot of doubts, Ken, about how this is going to work. And, it's just a relentless. I went back and look at all the general managers and coaches that this owner, Dan Gilbert, has gone through since he became the lead guy with this basketball team in 2005. I mean, Kenny, we're talking about 5 general managers and 9 head coaches. That on average, a head coach doesn't even last 2 years with him.
Right.
So you tell me, stay the course,
Hell no.
with Kobe Altman, stay the course with JB Bickerstaff, and say, well, they did some good things, so things are going to get better, and this team is going to compete and going to be a playoff team. I can't get behind that right now, Ken. I really can't. I don't see it.
I'm amazed that Kobe Altman is the only general manager under Dan Gilbert's ownership to get a second contract as a general manager. I think it starts there. I'm going to go back 3 years ago when they drafted Colin Sexton. Okay. Yeah. And they were picking 8th at the time. Not the ideal spot, right? You wanted to be top 3, top 5, and you're picking 8. So when you look at Sexton, 24.5 points this year, he's increased his scoring average each and every year. But I look at him not as a starter. I look at him as an ideal 6th man coming off the bench for a team. I think he's a slightly better Jordan Clarkson is what I see out of Colin Sexton. Okay. So I'll give Altman at least a little bit of credit that at 8, you got a guy that's averaging 24.5 points a game at the NBA level. But as you said, those aren't meaningful points in meaningful minutes of meaningful games.
No, they're not.
I go back to that pick, and I sit here, and I remember talking with Danny Ferry about this and Chris Grant both, right? The job of a general manager is to forecast, is to, look at a player based on what he does now and what his potential is, right? When they were picking 8th, Michael, this is right after LeBron left, right? First year, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this draft and I'm like, all right, who's still available at 8? Well, the most impactful, had the most potential, could have been the number 1 overall pick in that draft guy that was out there was Michael Porter Jr. Now, coming out of Missouri, had back issues, back surgery and everything. But my argument at the time and to this point today is Colin Sexton going to be the guy you build your entire franchise around if he reaches his potential? Or is Michael Porter Jr., yeah, it's a roll of the dice, okay? But if you get Michael Porter Jr. healthy, he's the best player in that draft, and you got him at number 8. I would have rolled the dice because it's going to take me 3 to 4 years to rebuild anyways after LeBron James. I would have rolled the dice on Michael Porter Jr., even if it meant him sitting out 1 or 2 years, like they did with Zydrunas Ilgauskas, my foot hurt like hell, all that back in the day. And I would have started the rebuild, taking a chance on Michael Porter Jr. Then you come back the following year, you have Junior, then you don't have 2 6'1" guards in your backcourt when you take Darius Garland the next year at number 5, again, just missing out on where you wanted to be in the top 3 that year. So I look at Kobe Altman, and what separates the great from the good from the unemployed are decisions like that. And I just don't understand the blueprint, the plan that Kobe Altman has in place going Sexton, Garland, and, also this year with Okoro. I get the 3 and D guy, but he's not a 3 shooter. He's, somewhat athletic and a D guy, but the shot may never come around. We'll have to wait and see. Kevin Porter Jr., they rolled the dice on him, and guess what? He scored 50, I think, in a game this year, but not for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Houston Rockets. Now, I don't know what the behind-the-scenes stuff was as to why that went the way it went, but you look at that situation, you look at the Drummond situation and the Kevin Love situation. Those are 3 bad situations for that front office, Michael. So that's why I say I think you blow up the front office. You want to keep JB Bickerstaff for another year? I'm fine with that. But I would go in a different direction in the front office if I were Dan Gilbert.
I hear you. And it probably makes the most sense. And then to add to that, now you're in a situation in year 4. Are you going to pay Colin Sexton and give him a max deal?
Right.
You just said he'd be an outstanding 6th man on a real good team.
Yep.
You want to give a max deal to that?
Not me.
So there you go. There's another conundrum that they have. And Kenny, it's, they've got to be ruining the day that they inked Kevin Love to that contract. They've got to be, because, Kevin Love, it's he really great disappointment to me, because a guy earlier in his career at Minnesota, you champion his cause and you hope he can get out of there. And then he ultimately finally does. And he winds up here with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And yet, again, he's a guy that seems like he's perfectly fine with taking as much time off as he can. If he doesn't have to play, I certainly don't think he presses the envelope to go to great lengths to get on the floor, Kenny. I don't know how anybody could say that he does.
And Michael, isn't that a bad look where they got rid of Andre Drummond? They got rid of Kevin Porter Jr., but Kevin Love gets to stick around, right?
And there you go. And it's just another thing with this, with this franchise. And I mean, Kenny, when you look at years without LeBron James in this basketball organization, and on this team, and I know I started looking at this before we did our NFL Draft Brown show last week. I mean, it's kind of scary, Ken. It's kind of scary. In the 7 seasons without LeBron James under Dan Gilbert's ownership, here's the records: 19-63, 21-45, 24-58, 33-49. Their best year they've had without James. 33-49. That was the first go round, before he left to Miami. And then after returning and losing in the finals 3 times and winning a championship here. Since then, they've been 19-63, 19-46, and 22-50. And as we said, lost 14 of the last 15. Well, my man, and that comes to an astounding winning percentage of 28.4%. Without LeBron James on this basketball team, Kenny, they've won 28% of their games.
I know, Reg. You and I have the same numbers down here, and I'm looking at it with LeBron James. The winning percentage is 62.1% in his 11 years with the Cavaliers. And, Reg, let's take it back even a step further. You ready for this? Sure. The last time the Cavaliers made the playoffs without LeBron James on the team, 1998. They were 47-35 in 98, lost in the first round. Let's go back even further. The last time the Cavaliers won a playoff series when LeBron James was not on the team, 1993. You got to go back to 28 years. Okay. The last time they won a playoff series without LeBron James on the roster. So LeBron equals wins. LeBron equals 5 NBA finals. LeBron equals 1 NBA championship. No LeBron equals Apbith, another ping pong ball in the lottery, in the hopper and in the draft lottery.
So, partner, here's my big question for you.
All right.
I got to ask you this. So, obviously, the best thing that Dan Gilbert does is write checks, correct? That's the best thing he does. Because anybody that tries to tell you he's got a great deal of NBA basketball acumen about putting together his organization, I'm sorry. Jim Paxson, Danny Ferry, Chris Grant, David Griffin, Kobe Altman. Those are his GMs he's gone through. Right. Here's the coaches now. Ready for this? Paul Silas, right? Brendan Malone for 18 games. Mike Brown lasted 6 years.
Right.
right? Oh, but LeBron was here.
Right.
Most of Mike Brown's time, right? David Blatt, 2 years. Ty Lue, 4 years. Championship with LeBron on the second tour of duty here, right? And of course, who could forget Byron Scott's time here, Larry Drew's time here, John Beeline, who made the worst mistake in his life for a guy who's been a tremendous college coach, and now JB Bickerstaff. 9, Kenny. 9 head coaches since Gilbert took over as owner of this basketball team 16 years ago. So that's, they don't even average 2 years per guy, per head coach. So I don't understand. I why I should be asking you Cavalier fans this, but Kenny's going to have to answer for you. Why are Cavalier fans so enamored? Because, hey, listen, look, it's real simple. Without LeBron James here, this team never would have won a damn thing, ever. How much more do you have to see in terms of the numbers? The numbers tell you everything there. I mean, without him, they're a team that can't even sniff playing 500 basketball at all. So, I mean, and again, but everybody, I know you love Dan Gilbert. Oh, he's great. What a great owner. And yet the Dolans get all kinds of grief. And all they've done is put their team in the postseason 6 times. 6, right? Since Gilbert has owned his Cavaliers basketball team. Again, without LeBron James here for parts of that, the Cavaliers would continue to be the worst organization in professional sports. How could you say anything other than that? There's been 7 years without James here. You just said it.
Yeah.
In those 7 years, they win 28% of their games.
What they're doing, Reg, with the fans, it bought mulligans. It bought him time. It's a honeymoon period because they did win a championship, the first one since 1964. So I'm not disputing what you said. I said it. Yes, you're absolutely right. But Dan wrote the checks to put the pieces around LeBron that put them in the finals 5 times or 4 times in a row. They won 1. How much longer that will last, that's the question.
So how many more years, Cavalier fans, are you going to mulligan this thing now?
Right.
Forever? Yeah. Kenny, I'll be honest. I've had people tell me, doesn't matter now. Doesn't matter if they ever win again. Right. What?
Hey, that's how starved this city was.
Well, I'm sorry, and I'm calling people out. That's BS. If that's the way you feel, because you don't care if they ever win again now or even get in the playoffs because they won a championship. LeBron James won that championship. Had nothing to do with the damn owner. I mean, I'm sorry. The numbers are just so monumental here, Kenny, with them and without them. That's all you need to know, period.
That's why I say a general manager change, front office change needs to take place. That front office hired, the coach from Michigan, John Beeline, right?
Yeah.
They've made the draft picks. They were part of signing Kevin Love, whether that was Dan Gilbert initiating that or that was Kobe Altman's decision to sign, Kevin Love. Their fingerprints are all over that. So for me, I'm blowing out the front office and going in a different direction. Reg, here's why. 2019, here were the 5 worst teams in 2019 in the NBA, okay? The Hawks were 29-53, no playoffs. The Bulls were 22-60, no playoffs. The Suns were 19-63, no playoffs. The Cavs were 19-63, no playoffs. And the Knicks were 17-65, no playoffs. That was in 2019. So here we are in 2021, all right? Yep. And now let's look at the Hawks. 41-31. They're in the playoffs. The Suns, 51-21. Second best record in the league. They're in the playoffs. The Knicks, who have never been in the playoffs in the last 20 years or whatever, they turn it around in 2 years, go 41-31. They're in the playoffs. The only 2 teams from 19 that had the 5 worst records that didn't make the playoffs, the Cavaliers and the Chicago Bulls. But the Bulls have at least made progress where they won 31 games this year, right? So
Yeah.
it can be done in a short
Yes, it
period of
can.
time.
Well, it doesn't have to take 5, 8, 10 years.
Right. The front office did not do a good job, in my opinion, of putting them in the best position to turn it around. That's why, for me, Reg, I want to blow it out, and I want to bring in, a new front office.
Certainly. And listen, it's hard to say. It's hard for me to come up, even if I wanted to, it's hard for me to come up with something as an alternative to that, to keep them. And
Right.
Kenny, listen, you mentioned, I'm convinced because, as you know, Dan Gilbert's a Michigan State guy.
Yep.
Right? In the last 10, 12 years, John Beilein in Michigan really started to put the pressure on Michigan State and Tom Izzo, right? Who had ruled the state of Michigan in the Big Ten. Well, when Beilein got here, that started to change, as you know. Michigan, 2 national championship games, 3 Elite Eights under Beilein, right? Kenny, I'm telling you, there's a part of me that believed the only reason that Dan Gilbert went after John Beilein was to get him away from Tom Izzo, so Izzo wouldn't have to deal with him anymore, so Michigan State could go back to being where they were before Beilein got to Michigan, where they ran the state in hoops and the Big Ten too. Well, that, as you know, that ain't the case anymore. I'm telling you.
The Reg conspiracy theory. I like it.
I think John Beilein would no more should have been an NBA coach. That's just not Coach Beilein. And I love him. And I know you do too. Right. I think he's one of the best college coaches that we've had. He's, to me, top 5, top 6 in the game over the last 15, 20 years. And it started when you and I saw him way back in the day when he was with Pittsnoggle and the boys at West Virginia.
Mike Gansey and the fellas, WVU.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, I got that. I believe that there's something to that. Okay. Now, nobody's going to. I believe hey, Dan, you get them away from having to deal with them now anymore.
Yeah, and look what happened though. Juwan Howard comes in, and they have a hell of a year this past season. So. Sometimes the grass ain't always greener when you make things. That happened,
I've known Coach Beilein since back then. Knew him before he was at. I knew him when he was at Canisius. Called some games when I just wish he wouldn't have done it. And that had nothing to do. For him, because it was a no-win for him. And these guys didn't respect him, Kenny. You know that.
He won with his bank account, Reg. He was getting up there in age. You get that one big payday, so from that standpoint, and he can always go back and coach, right?
For him in a basketball sense, I wish he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I know. I got you on that. All right. Well, there's our Cavaliers segment of this edition of the R&R podcast. We got to get a break in right now. When we come back, Reg, the surprising Cleveland Indians at the quarter mark, only 2.5 games out of first place in the AL Central behind the White Sox. We'll break down how they're doing it and can they sustain it next.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomwell CBD Store and PhenomwellCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, PhenomwellCBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast. Kenny Rhoda, Michael Regai with you. We've talked Cavs already. Michael and I are going to play the Browns schedule game a little bit later on in this podcast.
Yeah, baby. I'm fired up.
He is. It's his favorite game to play out of all the games. That's coming a little later. But right now, we got to give some love, Reg. And I was hard on them in the offseason because I didn't like the way they went about business, basically stripping it down to the bare bones, worst payroll in all of Major League Baseball. And I thought they were going to struggle coming out of the gate because their offense was going to be horrible. Their pitching would be good, but they wouldn't score enough runs. Well, I was right about the offense. Their last 4 or 5 guys are terrible. It's an absolute joke at the bottom end of the order. But the Jose Ramirez's, the Franmil Reyes's, and some of the other guys, Cesar Hernandez, they're scoring just enough runs to stay competitive and win games, Reg, while the bullpen's the best in baseball, maybe. And here they are at 22-18 at the quarter mark and right in it. Are you surprised by this?
No, because they can pitch. And, we've said that as much as you and I and me too. I just I don't think that they're a major league caliber offense, not over the course of 162 games. And I think, unfortunately, that's going to lead to them. I don't believe they're going to make the postseason this year because over the course of 162, I think it's going to show up. Now, though, the way they pitch, it's going to keep them there. It's going to give them a shot. And I think that's something. And as we've always said, that is, Chris Antonetti. And at the time, until he left, Mike Chernoff and even, Terry Francona and his pitching coaches in the organization, you got to give it to them because that they can do. And they're one of the, they're one of the top 5 pitching staffs in baseball, and that stays constant. And Kenny, that gives them a shot. It gives them a shot because you can pitch. You can win 3-2 and 4-3 games in Major League Baseball, then, because there's a lot of teams that we think that are, very good teams, and they swing the bats much better than the Indians, but they can't consistently win 3-2, 4-3 games because they don't pitch well enough. So it's difficult to watch sometimes, like losing 3 to the Seattle Mariners, right? Kenny, in the 3 losses, they scored 7 runs.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. You can go out on the road and you score 7 runs in 3 baseball games. Yeah, you're probably going to lose 3 in a row. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. But overall, you just said it. I give them credit. I had them finishing right around 500 this year. We'll see. There's still 120 games left. But as you said, 4 games over at the quarter pole, and I don't think you could ask for much better than that, quite honestly.
And look at the Twins, dead last, not just in the AL Central, in all of baseball. Worst record in all of baseball was supposed to be the Twins and the White Sox ahead of the Indians in the division. Twins may be out of it. Royals were a fraud. We saw that after the
11-game losing streak or whatever they've had. Yeah, and then Detroit is Detroit. So, I have to worry about that.
So it's a 2-team race.
It is. So, and I think they'll hang with the White Sox. Again, obviously, I'd much rather have the White Sox offense than the Indians offense, but I think they'll hang. Now, the question is if, you got those, it's going to be very important every time the 2 teams play, Ken. Because we're only 40 games in, and that's what it's come down to. It's going to be those 2 to, vie for the Central Division crown.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Reg. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought the Dolans should have spent a little more money getting 2 more bats. Yeah, that outfield is one of the worst in all of baseball. Last year it was. This year, okay, you've added Rosario out there, who's a legitimate outfielder, but you're rotating, the revolving door in center field. Right field, Naylor has his ups and downs. He's a young guy. All right, then play him every day and see what you have in Josh Naylor. He hit the game-winning home run the other night for the Indians, which was nice against the Angels. But I'm sick and tired already of the revolving door in center field. I've seen enough of Jordan Luplow. I don't need to see any more of that. Even though as we speak, how about this? As we speak, Jake Bowers just took Shohei Ohtani yard And the Indians and Angels are tied 2-2 as
There
we're
you go.
doing this podcast. Go figure, right?
Well, go figure, because I don't think he's a major league hitter, as I've said many, many times. But
that'll be enough to keep him up there in their eyes.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
we told you. Look at that.
Yeah.
He took Ohtani yards. So first base and center field are a question. The catching position, Reg, you and I could
losing
hit
Perez.
Yeah, well, losing
that
he was
hurts.
batting 131. I think
Well,
when
you're
he
right.
went down.
You're right. Hell of a job, running this staff and running the game. We know that about Roberto, but you're right. 130. Come on now. Come on.
Hedges is 127. He's the backup. Then you got Renee Russo, or not Renee Russo. She's the actress. Renee Rivera as the third string catcher, who's now the backup, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I look at this and it's like two more bats. Now, maybe, just maybe, if they continue on this path as they get closer to the July trading deadline, maybe because they didn't spend any money, and we just found out that capacity will be at 100% starting on June 2nd. And so hopefully more tickets will be sold in that. Maybe that will, force the Dolans, if they're still in the race, division or wild card, to go out and get at least one more bat, as opposed to just dipping into the AAA farm system and hoping that you get a guy that can come up and help you that way.
How do you feel, Kenny, about this thing where, maybe they've quieted it a little bit, but one day Ahmed Rosario plays center field and next day he's playing shortstop? I mean, what are we doing here? This is the bigs, man. This is the show. I know this 9 times out of 10, you got to be real strong. And I mean, swinging the bat too. And this is an organization that has, went through such a long period of time with Kenny Lofton playing center field for him. I don't know. How are you supposed to win and win big when you have no idea who your center fielder is on a day-to-day basis? I don't understand that. It's kind of mind-boggling to me, actually, that this is how they're looking at that.
Yeah, I'm looking at who is it? It's been Harold Ramirez. It's been Rosario.
Recently. Yeah.
Right. It's been Luplow out there. Who else? Daniel Johnson came up for a couple of games. I don't know if he played center field or not.
I think punched out 8 times.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, they ruined his confidence right out of spring training. Hey, go out, get better, have a great spring, and you got a shot at making the team. He did all that up. You're not good enough. Send him down, and then he presses when he comes up and whiffs. That man, but they've had at least, I want to say, 6 guys play center field in the first 40 games. I don't know.
How do you do that?
At the big
this
league
Major
level.
League Baseball now. This is a show. Major League Baseball. Yeah. And you are so up in the air that you're not sure day to day who your manager is going to write on his lineup card is playing center field. Maybe next to catching, the most, in pitching aside, of course, the most important position in Major League Baseball, that's shortstop possibly, but you know what I mean. And you know what, too? I mean, to have this thing where you have no idea. I mean, the point is you don't have a Major League caliber starting center fielder. And yet here they are, 4 games over 500.
We forgot Ben Gamble. We didn't put him in that rotation.
All right, we'll throw him in there too. You're right.
Now he's cut. Thanks for coming to spring training. You made the team. Now you're not any good to be on the team. See you later. They got rid of him. So
that's right.
Well, in first base too, the revolving door at first base. Same thing. Yu Chang, who's a shortstop, playing first base. Jordan Luplow, left fielder, playing center field. You mentioned Rosario, shortstop, playing center field. Kipnis playing second base, then center field. I mean, they've done this not just this season. It's been in the past, and I don't get it. Like you said, AAA level, fine. That's where you go to learn to do that stuff before you come up here. But at the big league level, in not just in the preseason or the exhibition season, the Cactus League, when games matter, where every game counts and one game could cost you a playoff spot, I don't get it, Reg. And it's amazing to me that with all of this that we've talked about, and these 100 hitters, the 200 hitters, these 220 hitters, and they're sprinkled all over the stat sheet, that they are still 22-18, right? Have the best bullpen in Major League Baseball, arguably, with Karinchak, Clase, and the man who drinks from the fountain of youth, Brian Shaw, somehow, some way, right? I mean, and Nick Whitgren too.
Yeah.
So you get to the 7th inning in a 1-run game, you got a shot if you're the
Right.
Indians. And I think that's all they're hoping for, Reg. They know this is kind of a rebuild, not a reload, a rebuild season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just hoping that, you know what, let's hang around. And what do you know? We're 22-18. That'll quiet the critics. Here we are, right in the thick of things. And whether they do anything at the trading deadline or not, I don't know. But we're hearing about Owen Miller. We're hearing about Bobby Bradley down on the farm as the two guys maybe that get the call up to try and help at first base and center field, I guess. Again, why not? You put everybody else out in center field. Why not Owen Miller?
Would you move Tristan McKenzie if someone wanted to give you a legitimate major league bat?
Yes.
Me too.
Here's why.
Me too.
They seem to be able to go pick somebody off somebody else's roster, bring them into their organization, fix them, and make them a starting pitcher at the big league level. They don't do the same with hitters, Reg, right?
Sure don't. No,
for
they do not. No.
Whatever their magic is with pitchers, they don't have it with hitters. So go get an established guy. Yes, I'll give you one of my young arms, okay? If I can get me an established big league hitter to play center field or first base. Yes, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I want to get your thought on that because, again, to me right now, as we said, we ran through the names. I mean, we've looked at Johnson and Gamble, and I'm not flushing them. They're young guys. You're not flushing them. But I think it's obvious they're not ready right now. So
Johnson, yeah, I agree. Gamble, fine, gone. I don't need to see him again. I like Daniel Johnson.
I got you. I got you. Same
don't
thing
know.
with Bobby Bradley. I don't want bring Bobby Bradley up and let him play first base every day. And then if he can't hit left-handed pitching, then you're going to find out, right?
Well,
you're going to find out if
you missed the opportunity with Jesus Aguilar, right? And that came back to bite you.
That's right. So, I mean, that to me is got to be. I think, Kenny, if they're really serious about this, I do think they're going to have to be willing to move one of the real good young arms to get that bat.
You know what? Logan Allen. Yeah, the numbers don't look great at the major league level this year. He was the 5th starter, but he's an arm too that you could dangle out there. I dangle a couple of those arms because
what about Savali or Plesac? Is there 2 and 3? Savali and Plesac. Now they're 2 and 3 in the rotation, right behind Bieber.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Okay, there you wouldn't move them.
No, I'm keeping those guys because that's the strength of your team. That's keeping your crappy lineup, afloat when they're only giving up 2, 3, maybe 4 runs tops. On a bad day, 5 runs like Plesac gave up yesterday, right?
Yeah, right. They're going to keep you in the game. Those two are going to keep you in the game always. You're probably going to get 6 innings out of them. Might get 7, and they're going to give up 3 runs, maybe 4, and keep you in the game. You're exactly right. Yeah.
To me, the guys that are the heart of the baseball team are Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes, Bieber, Savale, Plesac, Clase, Karinchak, and that's about it. They'll probably say Roberto Perez when he's healthy.
They would, yeah, just because of, again, what he does with the pitching staff and how proficient he is as a defensive catcher. But he, again, 130. I mean, my God, you got to be able to hit 200 in the show, man. You got to. But anyway,
Mario Mendoza would be an all-star on this team, hitting right at the 200 mark, right? At shortstop too.
He'd be one of the big bats on this squad. Yeah. So, I'm all for it. And again, I think Tristan McKenzie is probably the guy. I think that you add a little bit of a sweetener and maybe somebody from your, I don't know, maybe to try to McKenzie and Gamble and get yourself a decent major league bat. And throw Jordan Luplow in that too, because I don't want to hear about how he's hit some bombs against left-handed pitchers.
Well, Gamble they released, so they're not dealing him in any deal. But Reg, they have supposedly like 9 shortstops in the organization. Okay,
right. Yeah.
Take the one maybe that is supposedly a prospect, but is the lowest one on your list, and sweeten that deal with McKenzie and throw in one of your young shortstops because they all can't play shortstop, and that's why we're seeing guys playing out of position right now. But they think, hey, shortstop's the most athletic position on the team, so we can make him into a left fielder, a center fielder, a first baseman, or wherever.
Well, that's not a good look. I cringe every time I see that, man. Or else it's the other, or go the other way and say, he is our center fielder, and he is going to be our center fielder. We look at, not just this year, we look at him as one of the centerpieces of the future for our organization, and he's a center fielder. So you either do that, but stop this thing going back, and it's not conducive to having a perennial winning team. I don't see it.
Here's what I'll say: 22-18 at the 40-game mark, outstanding, phenomenal. I don't think it's sustainable with this offense. I just don't think they can sustain. What would that? If you times that by 4, that would be
88 and 88, and what's that? 88 and 74.
Yeah, somewhere in that vicinity. So I don't see that happening. So I've got them at 81 and 81. That was I had them right at 500. Keeping Tito's streak alive of never having a losing season as the Indians manager. I thought they were a 500 team based on the division they played in, because the Royals stink, the Tigers stink. The White Sox were the favorites. The Twins were supposed to be good, but now, so what may help them is the division, Reg.
Sure,
that may get them over the 500 mark because of the division.
Yeah, I went 84 and 78.
Okay.
And we'll see. But again, I don't know if that's sustainable with a team that hits 212.
Right. Yeah, that's the team batting average. Yeah. I'm not sure what's worse, the Indians batting average or the Cavaliers 3-point shooting, Michael Regan. You got to pick one of those two that's the worst. I'm not sure we can really decide between those two, because they're both bad. Worst in the NBA, I think, with the Cavaliers 3-point shooting as a team. And the last time I looked, the Indians were either last or second to last in batting average in Major League Baseball.
Not a pretty picture, does it paint?
No, it's
either way. No.
But you know what is pretty?
What's pretty?
The Cleveland Browns schedule, Michael Regan.
That's pretty.
17 games coming up in 2021. And when we come back after this break on the R&R podcast, I'm going to get Michael Regai to play the Browns schedule game with us and make an early prediction on what he thinks your Cleveland Browns will do. I'll give you my prediction as well. The schedule game next on the Regai and Rhoda podcast. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
and me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Final segment of the Regai and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out again to our outstanding producer, Dave Emmerich, bringing you this in the Poscatosphere as we, did I say Podcatosphere? I'm going to work on getting that right for all of our future Podcatosphere episodes. And Michael, we've done the Cavaliers. We've done the Indians. Now it's time to talk Cleveland Browns and the game show that everybody loves to play all across America, the schedule game from the National Football League and your Cleveland Browns. You ready, Reg?
I'm ready. It's the very best, especially in mid-May, right after schedules came out in the draft. Mini camps are starting. Maybe J.C. Treader will allow the Browns to do that, Kenny. I'm not sure yet, but that's another story for another day.
All right, so 17 games this year. That's new. Browns will have 9 home games in the regular season, 8 away games in this regular season. Next year, it'll flip-flop, but we don't worry about next year. We worry about this year. And the schedule came out, Reg, and I looked at this, and bada boom, bada bing, right out of the gate, you're opening up on the road where you last played last year and lost, and your season came to an end at the Kansas City Chiefs. Those schedule guys know what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah, baby. They said, that was real good. That was a ratings bonanza last year, right after the holidays. So let's put that in the 90-degree heat of Kansas City on opening weekend and make those Cleveland Browns, if they're going to win an opener, they're going to have to do it against the team that, Kenny, I would say everybody feels is the top team in the AFC still, and a team that, as we know, certainly does not lose at Arrowhead very often.
Reg, what are the Browns? Are they like 120-1 since 1999 in season open? It's either 120-1 or 119-1. I forget what it is, but I know the win. It was Jeff Garcia losing his mind, yelling at his dad, running off the field at the stadium, beating the Baltimore Ravens of all teams on opening day. That's the only win in 2004 for the Browns since they've been back. They tied the Steelers one other year.
It's hard to fathom, isn't it, partner? That's just hard to fathom. Okay, so you got to go see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all of my man. And I do, I love Andy Reid. I always have. I think he's terrific. And just continues year after year. He's in a hell of a situation. And you know what, Kenny? I was thinking about it. And quite frankly, now, I would have rather this bit. I'm cool with September, early October. I'm glad that the Browns are making this trip, first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season. Week 1, daunting task, to be sure. But the difference here, Kenny, is, as we know, I think even with an L here, if that's the way it comes out, I don't think it's going to be daunting in any way, shape, or form for this football team. And I don't think it's going to be something that gets them, all ruined that the season didn't start with a W. So that's how good I feel about them. But though I gotta go the W with the Kansas City Chiefs on opening day in Arrowhead. That's hard to fathom that the Browns are going to be able to go in there and win that opener.
All right, so it's 120-1. I just did the math while you were talking there. My Baldwin Wallace education being put to the test. Multitasking, and I believe Andy Reid in Kansas City is 6-1 in openers. Mm-hmm. So when you put those two formulas together, leads me to believe that, Kansas City going to win that opener. But I will say this, Reg, if there's a time to play Kansas City, week 1 with the new offensive line, right?
Yes.
And coming off the Super Bowl hangover. And unfortunately, you had the tragic, car accident. Right. Although I think the young girl did not pass away, but I believe, she in the hospital with Reed's son and everything. So, there's some distraction. So it might be a good time to get them early, but until the Browns win another game, and I know it's a different regime, and on paper, the roster's better than it's ever been. They got to win one for me before I pick them on opening day. So I went with the Kansas City Chiefs on opening day. But then, Reg, I look at the upcoming games after that. Houston at home, Chicago at home. We don't know who the quarterback will be. Might be Justin Fields. And then you've got a road trip to Minnesota, for the head coach going back to his old stomping grounds and that. And then, the LA Chargers. So I think the Browns, looking at, those first weeks after Kansas City, I think they've got a chance to be 2-1 going to Minnesota, with a chance to be 3-1 after that game, to get a win for their coach.
I'm giving them all 3. They will win the next 3. As you said, they'll come home, and who knows what's going on in Houston. I don't think anybody could be more dysfunctional than the Detroit Lions, but Houston is closing in on those Leo Lions as just that. Chicago, you said it, to me, Kenny, they're a perennial 8-8, 7-9 football team until I see otherwise. And the Browns, with what they accomplished last year, they'll go on the road into city of broad shoulders and take down those Bears. And then they're going to go into Minnesota. So it's the NFC North this year, right? Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit. And they'll win that one too, Ken. So I got them 3-1 when they make that trip out to see that young man that had a hell of a year, Justin Herbert, and tremendous quarterback play for the LA Chargers.
I have them 3-1 going there as well. And coming up on the short end of that, Reg,
Okay.
I think it'll be an emotional win over Minnesota for them with Stefanski having, been an assistant there, going back and getting that. And you got to go to the left coast. And that's always tough. And I love, what they're doing in I almost said San Diego, in Los Angeles with the Chargers.
Right.
Joey Bosa on the defensive side.
Herbert's for real, man.
Whatever. Hebert, however you pronounce his
Bobby
name.
Hebert.
Remember Bob, Louisiana?
Hell yeah, I remember Bobby Hebert, man.
Yeah. So
USFL. Remember the Michigan
that's
Panthers?
right. The Panthers.
Anthony Carter.
That's AC. I forgot about AC with the Panthers.
USFL back in the day. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So I think that's a loss. So I got them 4-2, but then I've got them winning the Arizona game, the Denver game, the Pittsburgh game, the Cincinnati game. Yeah.
Homestand, right?
Think about that, right? You come back.
The Denver game's a Thursday night, I believe.
Right. It's nationally televised on Fox Thursday night. So, so you're looking at 0-1, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 5, 6-2 at the halfway point, beating the Steelers on Halloween in Cleveland.
Right? I'll take 6-2, although it's, it's a 17-game season, but we'll still call the 8-game mark the halfway point to keep everything even. I'm absolutely with you on that because the Browns, Kenny, I don't want to, it's difficult to do, but I think there's a shot. I'm looking at 8-1 for the Browns at home, man.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think they now have just got that. It's, of course, it's all about, their talent and their capabilities, but I think they got the mindset now. You aren't coming in here and taking us out.
Okay.
You're just not coming in our place and taking us out. I think there's a real good shot they can go 8-1. I'm 7-2. I think, I'd just be shocked if it wasn't at least 7-2 at home.
Minimum 7-2. And I'm with you. And I remember when we did our radio show together on WKNR, you told me 3 things. You said, you got to protect home. You got to win at home. Number 1, you got to win in your division. Number 2, right?
Yep.
And then number 3, win in your conference. Those 3 things right there, you do that. You back then it was 8 home games, right? You go 7-1 at home, you go 4-2 in the division, above 500 in your conference, you're making the playoffs and having a chance to win your division. So those are the things they need to improve on, get better at, and do this year. Like you said, minimum 7-2 with the 9-game home schedule this year, right?
So they've got the 9th, the home game and the 17-game schedule. So there we are. That's through now. Now we're going into November now. Okay. Right. So now the temperature's dropping, getting a little frosty around Cleveland town on the shores of Lake Erie, and snow may start flying a little bit, Kenny. And that first one, and I hope the young man, because I love Joe Burrow, and I think he's got a shot to be a tremendous NFL quarterback. I hope he's healthy, ready to go. But that's why the Browns open up November, right? And they got the back-to-backs now. So coming off that 3-game homestand, now you got 2 road games. You got to go see Joe Burrow, and then go see Billy Belichick and his New England Patriots in Foxborough. What do you see as those 2 road games back-to-back to start November?
One team, one heartbeat. Go Tigers. Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy. Ed Orgeron, head coach. Go Tigers. Always got to drop that in there.
Yes, sir. Love it.
I got a win over the Bengals. I think they're improving, but the Browns are going to find a way to win that road game again.
Maybe 38-35. Like
another high-scoring affair. But
hey, boy, yeah.
Entertaining as all hell, right?
Yeah.
I think they find a way to win that one. But then Belichick. Now, who's going to be quarterback at that time? Is it still going to be Cam Newton?
I can't believe Cam Newton is going to maintain his job.
Right?
I just can't.
Is it Mac Jones at that time?
Might be.
Brian
You know,
Hoyer.
Cam Newton for Brian Hoyer. He's signed again, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Our man, Mr. Hoyer. Kenny, I got to tell you, for a guy that at one time was certainly considered a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, I felt bad for him last year watching him a little bit. I mean this seriously. I felt bad. I mean, Cam Newton looked terrible in trying to throw the football last year. Just terrible.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I don't know. Who knows? It might be, Belichick might, you give him a couple, 2-3 losses where Newton doesn't have the offense moving, might be Mac Jones time.
Yeah, very well could be. So, there's my my alarm going
Good
off,
morning,
reminding me, to do something. I think we had a podcast I had to do or something like that.
Something like that. All right.
I've got them, Reg. I've got them going. I'm looking at it here. So, what are they? They're 6-2. Then 7-2 against Cincinnati. I've got them at 7-3 after New England.
Oh, lost there, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
8-3 after Detroit.
We don't even talk about Detroit Lions.
No, Jared Goff, whatever.
If the Browns lose to the Detroit Lions at home, my God, I'm going to have to reevaluate everything then.
Yeah, and how about this? That game, the barge is up for grabs, right? The Great Lakes Classic. Yeah,
Fantastic.
They can move it from the preseason to the regular season and give the team the trophy. Yeah,
there
stupid idea. So I got them beating Detroit, and then Baltimore a loss. So at the bye week in week 13,
so
I got the
You're
Browns.
gonna go loss in Ravens land.
Yeah,
huh?
first game
That's
at
Thanksgiving
Baltimore.
weekend, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Thanksgiving weekend.
So I've got a loss there, and I have them 8-4 at the bye going into week 13.
8-4. That probably sounds logical. I'm going to say they're the one you had a loss in New England. I'm going to win there. They're going to beat Belichick because of the terrible quarterback situation there.
Right.
And so I'm going to win there, Kenny. So you're 8-4. I'm 9-3 there.
Okay. All right. And then we come out of the bye.
I don't like the late. I do not like a bye that late too. Playing.
Yeah, and the
games.
bye. You go Baltimore bye week, Baltimore, right? You're at Baltimore.
What is that?
Then the bye week.
Bye week. We ever had you play a team in your own division back to back?
I don't know.
Schedule. What are they doing?
Well, the only advantage for the Browns and why I'm picking a win for the Browns at home is Baltimore does not have a bye week in week 13. They play the Steelers, which is usually a knockdown, drag-out brawl, regardless, right?
Yes.
So that's an advantage for the Browns there. So I've got them coming out of the bye and bouncing back and getting a win over the Baltimore Ravens there to be 9-4 going into that matchup to be determined the time at home against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. So again, you got splitting with Baltimore with a bye week in between.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds. They're still a pretty damn strong football team, those Baltimore Ravens, and I really like Eric DaCosta, their general manager, does a good. So I'm going to be joining you there in the Browns split with Balmer next year.
All right, so that leaves us 4 games left: Las Vegas, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. And I've got them going 2-2 in those remaining games, Michael. I know it's a loss at Green Bay for me. Okay.
Sure.
And then either Vegas or Pittsburgh.
It's on Christmas Day, by the way, right? The Green Bay game.
Yes, it is. On the road, Saturday, short
Number
week.
12 be their quarterback in green.
If he's not, then it could be a win. But
I
if
agree,
he's there,
but I'm going to say he is. He's going to be their quarterback.
So I've got them finishing out 2-2 in those remaining 4 games. So as of today, what is today? This is May 19th. All right. We're taping this at 10 p.m. on May 19th. I've got the Browns in the schedule games, subject to change in the future. I've got them at 11-6 and winning the division at 11-6.
I hear you. And very conceivably could. I got them 12-5 with that win over New England, I guess, is our difference where you have a loss. So I'm going to go 12-5 there and winning the division, of course, and hosting a playoff game.
Wow.
How about that?
That hasn't happened since the late 80s, right? No. 94, Belichick hosted Parcells when they beat the
Belichick
Patriots.
hosted Parcells, and my man Vinny Testaverde threw a couple of touchdown passes to Michael Jackson. They took Parcells out and beat New England.
That's
You're
right.
right. That was on New Year's Day
Yeah.
of 1995, cold as could be. Sat in the stands in that one, and that was So that was like the pupil beating the mentor and the teacher
That's right.
back in the day, right?
Yeah,
When,
last home playoff game.
Belichick beat Parcells.
And last home playoff win as well.
I
So
believe that.
it's amazing.
Good Lord, 26 years ago.
Yeah. All right, real quick, Reg.
Yeah.
I checked out Pro Football Focus. I wanted to get their odds on the Browns to see how with what we're predicting here. You ready? Real quick. Their win total average at Pro Football Focus, they have the Browns win total average at 10.2. So both of us are slightly higher than what they have. They have the Browns playoff chances at 72.7%. They've got the division title chances at 46.3%. Making the Super Bowl, just getting there, 14%. And they have the Browns' chances of winning the Super Bowl at 7% this year. That's at PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. That's it. Yep.
Wow. A parting question for you, esteemed, knowledgeable one.
Yes.
Without just catastrophic major injuries, is there any chance in your mind that this thing could fall apart and coming off the strong year and just again, without injuries involved, just wind up a team who basically finishes 500 and not in the playoffs?
I don't think so, because Houston, Chicago, Arizona, I'm not sold on, although they got better. Denver, not a good team. I told you the Steelers are going to be under 500. They're bad. Cincinnati, 6 wins at most this year, still on the way up. The Lions are terrible, right? You look at that. And so, no, I don't think worst case scenario, right? You want worst case scenario?
What's
9
worst
and 8.
case? 9
I
and 8?
think 9 and 8 is worst case scenario for the Browns this year.
And again, that's without any just horrific, catastrophic injury to key personnel.
Right.
I would, I hear you. I didn't even say 10-7, quite frankly, but I believe this is a 12-win football team, and I think they're going to, show everybody why that this thing is back, and we've talked about it all. We talked about it on our last couple of shows, and we've got an opportunity to do big, big things with this roster this year.
Yeah, and we will revisit this later in the year as we get closer to the start of the season to see who maybe they've added to the roster, who maybe got hurt, and then we can redo, if we choose, the schedule game and see if we come up with different totals of 12-5 for Michael Regai, 11-6 for Kenny Rhoda. So we had fun playing. See, that wasn't too painful, Reds, was it?
I loved it, Kenny. Man, I'm no longer, in my old age, I'm no longer the curmudgeon I was back in the day.
That's still Greg Brenda. He's still the curmudgeon of all curmudgeons.
Okay.
The Dean will be at the top of that list as long as he's doing sports talk, right?
I think he'd wear that like a badge of honor, don't you?
Are you kidding me? Sir Franks and Bacon on Twitter? Yes, sir. You know he would. Absolutely. Hey, Reg, great stuff as always.
You too, Ken.
On Cavaliers, Indians, Browns. We'll do this again in the not too distant future here on the Press Play Podcast Network. It's the Regai and Rhoda podcast. Everybody out there, hey, enjoy the nice weather. You've got full stadiums for what looks to be the Indians as well as the Browns this year. Continue down this path of getting out of this pandemic, and everybody stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again soon on the R&R podcast.